Well, I've been doing content for 20 years. I have an ROI calculator. It's not my videos. It's just random videos. It would take like 5 seconds. All this content generates 10,000 page views and I made $10,000. So it's obviously $1 a page view. If you're tricking them into buying, then your stuff sucks anyways and you shouldn't be doing it. And I'm glad you're failing.
This is the Content Capitalists Podcast. We talk to business owners who've used video to grow their businesses to $1 million a year or more. How they did it, what worked, what didn't. Welcome to the Content Capitalists with your host, Ken Okazaki.
Hey guys, welcome to another episode of the Content Capitalist Podcast, where we talk with people who know what they're doing when it comes to using content to generate more business or more revenue for their businesses. I've got with me Mark de Grasse. Thank you so much for joining me.
Yeah, no, it's great to be here.
We're right now in Costa Rica, which is beautiful and amazing. I'm interviewing you because I think a lot of people, when they think about how much should they invest as far as time, resources, money into content creation, there's a big question mark in their mind, like what's the ROI? How is this actually going to bring more customers? And in the end, am I going to end up embarrassed, frustrated, and regretful of my decisions, right? So I want to address that. And I want to ask you, first of all, to give us a brief overview of like how you got to where you are, like a tiny bit of background, and then we'll go into some strategy on content creation for business owners.
Yeah, I mean, I think content's it's so much more important now than it was back when I was trying to get people to do content. I've actually been trying to do it I've been doing content for 20 years, but in terms of when I had my agency for about 6 years, I was in brand and website development. And why I went into that specifically was because I was trying to tell people that you have to own your content. Like if you don't own your content, if you don't host your content, your website, if you have no kind of database to show people what your brand's about, then you're going to be missing out, or you'll be completely reliant on paid media. Mm-hmm. And so what's happened, I've been pushing that agenda for like 10 years. And so now because of, what's going on with AI, some shifts with Google and potential, I don't know what's going to happen with SEO. It's more important than ever. I hate that phrase, but I have to use it. We're both to do it,
That's absolutely true because technology is doing things that we've never been able to see. So when you say more important than ever, I don't actually think that's hyperbole. It's actually true.
Oh, yeah. Well, the thing is, everything that we've done for the last 10, 15 years has been because of the algorithm we were trying to meet with SEO. Yeah. So the actual quality of the content was secondary to optimizing the content for whatever keyword phrase you were trying to get people to find you with. And so what that led to was really just crappy content where people were just making up words to fit some formula instead of just thinking about, say, what's a good topic that my customers would appreciate, or my prospects are probably looking for, or just helpful for the world, And instead what we did was just kind of make this, just crap content is what happened. Yeah. So
I think at that time, and I remember this is when I was first discovering like what is the internet, but there was a time where everybody was just sharing tips and tricks on how to hack the algorithm, like trick people into seeing your stuff. And that's all everybody was talking about in the forums and stuff. So yeah, there's definitely just been a shift since then. AI is too smart now. You can't keep doing that.
No. Now it's actually reading, interpreting, and not just looking at, say, one piece of content you have, but your entire database of content. That's really how the algorithm preferred you to do, is have lots of content. Yeah. But a lot of people just took that to mean like, oh, well, I just need to publish whatever article or whatever video. People want content, so they just resented it. And it's like, no. You're trying to convince people that you're the authority in whatever your space is, and so they should trust you and give you money. And so everybody just kind of fluffed that off and was like, you know what, no, stupid people, here's your FAQ section, whatever. And it was just this opportunity to connect with everybody on this more personal, more professional level and build your authority so that you could do whatever you want and people trust you simply because you have the best stuff. Yeah. And when people, kind of didn't really think about their content and they just were just putting out stuff. Now, that stuff, for me, when I look at a website and I look at your articles, the owner might as well have written these articles, because if it says something that the owner doesn't agree with, but it's on your website, then it might as well be on your service page, because that's you. And you didn't check it? Yeah. What are you doing?
I mean, it's so true. It's so true. I want to do something here is I want to talk a little bit about the past, what's working now, and then what you're thinking about, what are we evolving into the future? Tell me about the first time when you had the aha moment, this makes sense. The content I created, I gave away for free, turned into cash in the bank for me. Do you remember when that?
Yes, I know exactly when it happened. Well, you know what? I had a fitness business. I started e-commerce in like mid 2000s, and my friend was into fitness, and I wanted to get an e-commerce business. I'm like, hey, you do be the guy who talks about the fitness stuff, and I'll be behind the camera. We'll make a bunch of exercises and workouts and all this kind of stuff, and then we'll sell equipment that you're using. And so we had kettlebells and sandbags and maces and all this weird kind of fitness equipment, and then we just make exercises. And so I was like, why doesn't more people do this? Like, here's the tool, and here's a million ways to use it. And if you are looking for the exercise and the workout plan, you obviously want the tool, or you have one or need another one. So why don't we just do content that lines up with the categories that we're selling?
Yeah.
So we started a magazine, and specifically because it wasn't because I wanted to do a magazine, it was because it's the best way to collect content. Because if you ask somebody for a content for a magazine, they're like, oh, a magazine.
And it sounds a bit more official.
It does. Yeah. Well, I am to get a benefit because now they can show the magazine to people. So now you get somebody who's actively sharing your brand with people. Oh, check out my article.
Yeah.
And so that was the collection method. So we print the magazine, and then within 6 months, we'd come out with the online content. So we do the articles and workouts and all that kind of stuff. It's, partition it. This is in the late 2000s. Mm-hmm. And I was just like, this all just makes sense. Like, why are more people doing this? It's like, here's a workout and here's a kettlebell ad. Like, it's obvious. And so I actually broke down the magazine and the entire database of content into the categories of the equipment. And then I called it a partner website. So we had, the free data on this website, and then all the ads were for the store. Yeah. And, they were connected, but, people didn't make the connection most of the time. So it felt like, oh, it's just these people giving away free content, and, oh yeah, here's some equipment that I actually needed because I'm looking for it. So it was a really easy correlation. I was like, why is everybody making content so complicated? Like, oh, I got to figure out the brand and the voice and blah, 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 blah. It's like, no, you sell this thing. Just make content about using the thing and then surrounding the thing, and then you send it back to there. So I used to call it the money train of thought, because if you can connect, the money to the content, then why are you doing this? Oh, awareness or helping the world? I don't know. But in terms of, if you're doing it for marketing, then you have to connect the product. Yeah. So it seemed obvious to me, but the more I got into it, the more I was like, why is everybody focusing on the keywords? Who cares? Like, you'll be found, but I did 10,000 pieces of content. Yeah. So I was like, I'll just swamp the system. It'll just be like so much stuff that you couldn't ignore. And it wasn't like crazy content either. It was like, what happened was I was watching these YouTube videos where I got into fitness. And I was like, man, these guys just keep freaking talking the whole time. Like, it's a push-up tutorial. Just show me the push-up. And so I was like, we're going to do the exact opposite. We'll just do 10 seconds of you doing a push-up, and then we'll put it 10 seconds of slow-mo of you doing the push-up, and that's the video. It's 20 seconds. And so we put out like 300 of those, and it didn't take that long because it was so simple. And then we produced this database that was the only directory of those exercises I could find. And I was like, why are more people doing this? It's just hard. People don't like to do the database stuff. Well, or the database, just like a list of information. Instead, they try to go viral and try to make it, I'm going to make this so top.
Explain what you mean to me when you say database. Do you just mean like, like
an index?
Just like putting it on WordPress as a blog, word search?
No. I mean, like, you make a list of information.
And this is for the public to access?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. So what we did, it was, kind of a ladder system. So the exercises led into the workouts, and the workouts led into the workout plans. And you could get the exercises and workouts for free. Those are completely open. And then to see the workout plans, you had to give us your email. And so then it was all connected and it was all working together.
And the email would continue to nurture them. And
now we had their email. Now we could do the promotion, do the indoctrination.
So this is late 2000s, you said, right? Yeah. You put this all together. Now, if you were to look at like the time span it took you to organize and get this done, what was that? Like a year or?
No, it was a long time. Yeah. And it was just a slog. Like, it wasn't like, oh yeah, we put up these content, we're huge. It was like, no, we did this for like a year solid. Yeah. And that's why I used to tell my clients, I was like, you know what? You're going to have to work at this for a year.
Yeah.
So, but it's okay, because after a year, you're going to be the dominant player because nobody else has done an index like this.
Yeah.
But it's a hard sell because it's like, a lot of work.
It is. And I have a media agency, and that's what I do. I just create content for people. And people, when they ask like, how long do I have to commit? I'm like, probably for the rest of your life.
Yeah. But like, well, do you want to be the authority? Then just literally, I always told people, I'm like, if you don't answer the question that your customers are asking, they'll find the answer from somebody else. So unless you want them going somewhere else, because the hesitation was always like, well, everybody's done an article about this or a video about this or whatever. I'm like, yeah, but You haven't done it. So who cares?
Yeah.
You want to send the traffic over to that guy? Because I want the traffic.
I mean, like Wikipedia wouldn't exist if they said, well, Britannicas are doing it.
Oh, look, there's 1,000 articles about this. Nope. Just skip it.
Yeah. Awesome. So do you remember what was like the business difference? Like as far as like, when did you start seeing leads coming in, converting to sales? How long did that take?
It didn't take very long. Well, we were doing a little bit of paid media, so that kind of jump started. And back then we actually used Yahoo. So it's like, we had a Yahoo store and then the Yahoo ads, and it was just like magic. It was like flip it on and boom. And I was like, wow, this is really easy. And that was just a capacity issue for, importing kettlebells from China and, the logistics of what was happening. And we were doing the actual products, then we were doing drop shipping, then we were also doing affiliate. And so we had all the systems going together to make a store.
Yeah.
And that was way too complicated.
Yeah, that's a lot.
Oh, and
how many people were you at the time?
3.
Okay, that's a lot.
We were shipping the equipment too.
And there wasn't all this automation before, like Zapier and stuff.
Oh, no,
back then,
nothing.
Right? So
it was
you were
literally
like copying and pasting and beats and everything.
Yeah, it was it was brutal. And we were shipping the kettlebells ourselves too. So we did
so they didn't have the warehouse fulfillment.
No, we had it was through USPS. It was back when they had like the flat rate boxes, but the boxes were good.
So you could stick a kettlebell.
We actually fit 70 pounds of kettlebells. You can fit like
looks like normal box.
Boom. The mail guy would actually pull up. He'd go drop off all his stuff, and he'd come to our gym, and then we'd load him up with like 3,000 pounds of kettlebells. I was like, yeah, that guy was insane.
He needs a tip. He'd like a big tip.
Well, that's when I realized, I'm like, man, there has to be easier products than freaking. And then I started getting into supplements, and then sold my company to On It, which is a supplement company.
Yeah.
And then they took my manufacturers and the equipment lines, and then I was their content director for a year or so.
Right. So thank you so much for telling us a little about the history. Tell us right now, you're president of DigitalMarketer. And as far as I know, when it comes to like education and training around digital marketing, you guys are like the gold standard. You've been around forever. I interviewed Ryan Dice also on the show a couple months ago.
Oh, wow.
And he's actually one of the people who I first started listening to after Tony Robbins interviewed him for the New Money Masters series back in early 2000s, actually, right? So there's like the OG of like what they call the syndicate, when interviews like. So I consider him like one of the authorities, and you guys have just set up this aura around what you train and teach with the great systems. Tell me about what's working great right now that you're telling, like if you're allowed, whatever you're okay sharing.
Oh yeah.
Like what's working that you're advising your, I guess your team.
Everybody.
Yeah, everybody.
Like the community. I have like 1 million people. So
and I know that AI is a big part of that.
Yeah, so the AI stuff, the speech I gave yesterday was really about, what I think is going to happen with AI. So it was more of like 6 to 24 months projection of where it's going. But what I'm telling people right now is you need to build that content database, and you need to privatize your following, because if you don't have people's email or some kind of direct access to them, if your organic traffic just dries up, or if ad costs go through the roof, then the lifetime customer value, or customer lifetime value, I want to say it, is going to become increasingly important, and it's going to get really expensive to get new customers. So what you need to do is really start working on your content database and really start producing.
So what does this look like today? Like you described what you built way back then, right?
But it's the same. So it's the exact same. Okay. I talked about that too.
So just a CMS pretty much.
Yes, but you have to think in terms of becoming a resource for the specific topic. So instead of being I need some topical articles or whatever. It's like, no, what can you be the dictionary of? Okay. And if you can be the dictionary of a certain topic, then you could kill it, because nobody thinks in those terms because they want to go with the viral cool stuff. And what you need is a base of just kind of dumb content. So for us, it was a list of exercises, a list of workouts, and at Digital Marketer, we basically just sub out our certifications. So we have 12 certifications: content marketing, social media marketing, SEO, analytics, and so on and so forth. And then we just build the content within those. So if we have a certain topic or a technique that we have, we can just blow out all the content into specific articles or individual videos. Yeah. And then now we have a list of content marketing articles. And what you try to do is make it formulaic. So make it, predictable. So people know, like, oh yeah, they always come out with a content article, and it always has, the 3 key features at the top, and then it goes into a tutorial, and then it goes blah, 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 but it's expected. And so what people want when they subscribe to something, they want to be able to know, here's exactly what I'm going to get every single time. So I don't have to like, I was good last time, but like this time it's kind of lame. You know what? I'll just wait until they make some good stuff. And so that's how people make their subscription decisions, not their clicking decisions. Yeah. And so if you can get on that list where you're like, oh no, I don't have to go to Google or YouTube or TikTok or wherever. I know that this website has everything I need. So I'm going to skip all that crap. I'm going to go directly to them. And now I got what I wanted. Yeah. But everybody just skips that because they think that all you want is like the benefit of the one article or the one video or the one. It's like, no. So all that stuff in terms of saying every database, what can you be the dictionary of? And then making your content episodic. So instead of doing like, okay, I have a topic, let's say content marketing. So content marketing is by topic. I'm just going to do one article about the benefits of content marketing. And it's like, no, instead, break it up into 5 videos. And how could those 5 videos relate to each other, be unique, but also part of the same series? So if somebody finds one of those, they'll be like, oh, this is just part 1 of a 5 video series. And if you want the next one, subscribe or whatever it is. Yeah. And then people have lots to click on because once you find a good video, you're like, oh, well, where's more good videos? And instead of making them look again, you just be like, no, here you go. It's part 5. And then what you're actually doing, or what we do, is we say, okay, here's our new product. What we do to basically just take the hot items, like the hot, concepts within that piece of content, and then you just make shorter versions of the longer version content. For us, we do courses, so it's easy. Yeah. So we just say like, oh, that's a cool thing you just said. So let's make a video. Let's put that in the front end video series. And then everything is related to the exact thing that we shot for the back end. So if you look at our social media cert, each one of our experts for each channel actually has a corresponding 5 video series. That's basically a really short version of what they delivered for the cert. And so people know exactly what they're going to get if they get the cert because they just watched the front end content. They're like, oh, I loved it. It's like, oh, great. Here you go. Here's the rest. So it's actually easy. It just, the execution, people just say like, oh, it's so much work, or, oh, I just need to cover the hot topics and that's it. And it's like, no, make it a thing. A big 2
questions come to mind as you walk. I'm following you on everything. I'm curious about how you feel about how evergreen should the content be. Like if there's a new technology that comes out, do you jump on that, or do you stick to things that will like project 5 years into the future is still going to be relevant?
You do both. Yeah. So that's the database content. The database content is like evergreen, dumb, formulaic content. Like it's just there. And so it's like your base. And then the topical stuff and everything else you could do, you just do that too. So it's like, oh man, this big change just happened. What should we tell people? It's like, okay, let's make a video about that. And then you have basically another series or another playlist of different types of videos, or maybe it's another show, whatever you want to call it for your YouTube channel. And then you're good to go. Then you're covering all your bases, but you have that formula where no matter what happens, even if there's nothing topical or we're just kind of tired, you're putting up 1 video a day and it's building up that database or that index of content. And no matter what happens, that's still going to be useful at some point. And we can also do the extra stuff whenever we feel like it.
Makes sense. My second question, follow up. When you did the magazines, you're talking about how you do great content right next to the product, right? Mm-hmm. Now, I've heard people say, a lot of experts have contradictory opinions about call to actions. Tell me about your approach to that.
Okay, so the call to action, I think is going to shift massively, because I think what we're going to get used to with AI and the new applications and programs coming out is not having to work so hard to make it do stuff. Because if you think of like that, when you download an app, it's like, okay, let me download the app. Let me figure out how the menu system works. Okay, let me find out what I download this for, and then let's set up my profile. It takes you like 1,000 steps, and I think people are going to be like, you know what? No, I'm going to download this app because it does something I need, and I want to do it immediately. Like I don't want to learn how to do crap. Yeah. And so, so what I'm telling people now is like your apps and your PDFs and your ebooks and your whatever tripwire is, you need to make it dynamic. So instead of having an ebook, you need to take that ebook and turn it into a dynamic application. Yeah. Now it's like, okay, here's the concept, and we're going to start out with a little questionnaire, and then by the end of it, we're going to tell you exactly the one of the 10 things that we would recommend in your situation. And it's like, oh wow, they just delivered. I wanted to find out this, and then I fill out a thing, and now I know. And so that's how you're going to start, or the expectation is going to come about for any call to action. Yeah. And I'm talking about, your lead magnet or whatever you want to call it. But for conversion, it's kind of the same thing. How do you convince them that moment? But that's a longer cycle. Yeah. For me, like I'll look at stuff for months before I'll buy it. So I'm kind of like that person where I'm like, yeah, you're going to have to sell me, and then you're going to have to sell me, and then you're going to have to sell me, and then eventually. But, you always say that, of the people who could possibly buy your product, about 97% of them aren't going to buy it right now. They're not ready, don't have the money, not on their mind, whatever it is. But, so you're only targeting 3% to purchase now. So what are you doing for that 97%? You got to keep them on the hook, and you got to convince them like, hey, when you're ready, you come to me because I have the good stuff, or I have the good content. Yeah. And so, that's what you should be doing, but it's tempting not to, or just go for that sale. Like, oh, this banner ad's not delivering.
So would you not put the call to action in the videos, like any of the content?
No, I always do the call to action. Yeah, we always put it at the end.
You always put it at the end. And what does that typically look like?
It's still organic. Okay. Yeah. So that's the episodic content I was talking about. So it's like, hey, this is just one of our 5 video series about this topic. If you want to see the rest, go ahead and check out the links below, or click the video, or whatever it is. Or if you want the more detailed version of all these topics we just talked about, then you need to get our certification. So click on the link and go to our website and get the certification. Okay. Or it might be like a shorter course, or some kind of essential ladder.
Makes sense. Now, what do you do as far as the social media goes? So you got this database which you own, right? That's going to be on your
it's on your website. Well, no, you would post on YouTube and embed it most of the time. Okay. Convert or transcribe it, and then put the actual content within your website. But it's still on your website. Now, alternatively, you can use like Vimeo so that the video is restricted to just you, and turn off embedding capability.
Mostly just be hurting yourself in most cases if you do that, right?
Well, it depends.
Unless it's behind like a pay gate or a membership gate, right? Is that what
I'm just saying that you'd have to come to your website to view it. Like, you could hide it from Vimeo and then just have it like, this is the one place you can get it. So actually right now that's what I'm doing, where I'm going to start doing a daily video about kind of my crazier ideas, and it's going to be only 24 hours. And so I'll just put it on Vimeo, and I'll hide it everywhere, and I'll only put it on one page of my website, and then I'll delete it after 24 hours. So the only way you're going to see it is if you're on the email list and you watch it then, because this crap's going away. So what you get is a much higher engagement rate, because it's like, hey, you could skip it if you want, but maybe it's super cool and it's going to be gone. So now you just, let go. We did a trial last year, and man, it was just like 70% watch through rates, like a 90% click through rate. Yeah, we did a 1,000-person test, and it was just like rushing it. I was like, this is it. This is the formula. And then we stopped doing it, and I'm restarting it now.
Yeah, you could, like, if there was one that was especially popular, you could bring it back for another 24 hours.
Yeah, you don't have to delete the actual video. Yeah. Just nobody can find it. And there you go.
Yeah. That makes sense. Okay. Do you also promote and like repurpose content to social media, or are you mainly just going deep in?
Exactly what you do. Yeah, so all of it. Yeah, so the whole content certification is about long form content, long form podcast, long form video, long form article. And then what we say is, for social media, all you're doing is splintering or partitioning, or whatever you want to call it, that content into carousels and images and charts and infographics and short form video and a million different things. But you base it on the long form, so you could say, hey, this is just one part of this huge thing that we have back on our website. So if you like this, go back to our website and read the full article. So it's always connected. So you don't have to make like specific social media content necessarily. You could just partition the long form content, and you solve both things. So now the call to action is go to the website and read the rest, or go to the index. That's the other thing, is if you do an index right, then the individual categories will have their own value.
Can we see an example of an index done right?
Yeah, well, you can see it at DigitalMarketer.com.
Okay, DigitalMarketer.com.
Yeah, so if you look at how we separate the blog, it's actually all broken down into the certifications. And so there's an obvious connection between everything. And what you'll see is we make it even more simple, because on the left-hand side, you'll see related courses, related resources, and other related articles. And the resources is actually our lead magnets. So you go and, you want the, digital marketer customer value journey download, or what do we call it? The marketing blueprint.
Yeah.
Click here, and then that's the email flagship.
All right. Now, you early on, you said that, before anybody else was doing it, you started building databases, started doing video content tutorials, and then everybody else kind of caught up. Now, what are you doing now that you think that the rest of the world is not catching on to yet?
Nobody does this. The thing that I just said, nobody does it. It's too boring. People don't like it. They're like, no, I need to do the sexy stuff, or I'm going to spend time doing this stupid thing. It's like, and so actually in the content center, I have an ROI calculator to say, like, here's the elements of expense that you're going to have for a specific type of content. and how you source it. So we have internally produced content, externally produced paid content, and externally produced unpaid content. And then it breaks down how those different sourcing methods would cost, and then gives you an actual ROI based on the traffic that generated and the amount of money that the website made. The formula is actually really simple, but nobody does it.
So realistically, let's say somebody has a local shop and they're selling, let's say, health food, right? And they do e-commerce. Like, how many hours per week or month do you think somebody needs to invest to do what you just described there?
It's not that much. It's just about consistency.
Give me a number.
An hour a day.
An hour a day.
Yeah.
Okay.
If you had an hour a day and you said, hey, this is my content hour, and that's all you did was really, well,
it's like a workout then.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and the benefit of having the index and the database is now you don't have to think like, okay, let me think about what I want to do today and blah, blah, blah.
You just have a checklist. Just go.
Yeah. Well, so for me, my son's into baseball. And so I'm always trying to monetize hobbies that cost us money. So I invented AmericanBaseballClub.com. And I was like, okay, what we'll do is we're going to have an index of all these skills that we have. So actually, that's a good place to go. That's like a true database where it's like catcher drills, pitcher drills, infielding drills. And then it just shows an exercise that I just embedded from a random video on YouTube. And so every day, all I do is I copy a YouTube video. I put the description that they had in the ChatGPT, and I say, write this in the voice of an excited baseball announcer. And then it does it. And so the whole piece of content, the page of content is like literally 5 minutes. And that's all I have to do.
Now, and you don't even reshoot the video.
No, I just embed the video. When you put
so you're saying that the content is not necessarily your videos?
No, it's not my videos. It's just random videos of people I found.
So that wouldn't even take an hour.
No, it would take like 5 seconds. And the way I build my websites is that I make it so you just fill in a couple form fields and you're done. So it's no thinking. There's no process. And now with that process, I could automate it with the VA, and now with AI, and the whole database could grow into 1,000 videos or 1,000 whatever. And now the only place you could get that kind of indexed content is my website. And I could add a tagging system and say like, okay, well, this is for this age group. So now you could break down your index into subcategories, and now they're even more specific to individual markets. And now your categories have an SEO and content value that they didn't have before. Then what you could do is say, okay, well, I want to do an article, like an official article. You pull your top 5 catcher videos because you have an index of 50, and you can say these are the 5 that are watched the most. And so these are the top catcher drills. And so now you're having a long form article, plus it relates back to the index, and now everybody's just bouncing around your website. I mean, that's so simple.
And then Google will figure out that whole, your hierarchy in there.
Well, and then you could build that subcategory. Yeah. So once you have the content and maybe you see a pattern, now you just blow out that pattern, or you subcategorize it, or you make another whole, top level category, and you say, okay, well, here's age groups, here's time of day, here's whatever, like strenuous versus easy exercises, or whatever you want to break it into. And then you just start tagging it. So, and WordPress, you just have a tagging system. It's good to go.
If you were to look at, you said you've been doing this for like 20 years, right?
Yeah.
Content creation. If you could hit Control Z on one thing you did that would make the biggest difference in like where you are right now financially, like in terms of building your marketing machine, if there's one thing you could hit Control Z on and do differently, what would that be? That you think would have made the biggest?
What's funny is I stopped doing the databases. What happened was I was doing these really short form videos, and I was doing all this stuff, and I got really into like infographics and graphic design. And I was like, I was inventing all these different things, and people love this graphic. And I should have just kept doing the stupid, simple index database, because still nobody's done it. Like I was, when I stopped.
That's not what you should have done. Just what you should have kept doing.
Just do it. Just keep going. And then you have like 30,000 pieces of this type of content. Like you will just destroy everybody, because the big guys can't focus that narrowly. And everybody else is like, I'm never going to put that together. It's like, oh, okay, well, it's just me. Yeah. And that, it's like I always compare marketing to exercise or fitness, because it's like, no, it's about consistency, progression, measurement, and like all the elements that you would do if you did a workout plan. I'm like, this is the same thing with content marketing, but nobody wants to do the work. They want the quick fix. They want the pill. It's like, no, there's no pill. Do the work.
So there are a lot of people, like if you're starting out, let's say below 7 figures, right? You're probably going to do it all yourself. But what do you see a certain line or threshold that people cross where they should hire an external team to help them do this stuff?
Yeah, I mean, if you can and it makes sense financially and you did the ROI. And so the ROI calculator factors that in where it's like, okay, here's internally produced. But internally produced doesn't mean free because your time is money. So how much would you pay yourself an hour if you were hiring out the same thing? And so if you factor that in, you start to realize like, okay, with this expense, if I did hire somebody to do it or outsource it for X dollars, then here's how much it would cost. And okay, now it makes sense. So you just do the math. And then, and if you have a database of content, you can start comparing how big the database is to how much money you made. And then now you have some correlation that you go. It's not perfect. I use $1 per visitor. And so I say, $1 per page view. So I say, okay, how many page views did it take to make $1? Okay, all this content generates 10,000 page views and I made $10,000. So it's obviously $1 a page view. And then once you just take that and apply it to each individual video or content you release, now you know the value of that piece of content. Now there's factors in there because if you're sending direct people from say a newsletter or some indoctrination campaign, that's going to skew your numbers. But you just separate those other pieces of content in a separate category and just judge the organic content a different way. Now you can break it out. But the ROI calculator just gives you an idea of how much it costs.
So where can people find that? Could you?
That's part of the certification. So the DigitalMarketer.com, and we have the content certification. And I go into exhaustive detail because I was like,
is that something that the viewers can check out, or do they have to be a member to look at the ROI calculator?
You know what? No, we're about. You know what? We probably are going to add it to. So we're going to launch a version of what we call Digital Marketer Lab. A cheaper version. So right now it's $95 a month. You get access to like 300 courses and all this.
That's really, really good value. $95 a month, you said?
Well, now we're going to do $29 a month. Okay. Only have access to basically the frameworks and then the calculators. And so we'll have the ROI calculator on there and that's it. And I think we have a trial. Just sign up for the trial. It's free. You can try whatever you want.
So we'll drop a link down below. My team will research that. And if you're watching this on YouTube, check out the link. If you're listening to on the podcast, look at the show notes. We're going to have links to, where's the best place on social media for people to find you?
Just markdegrasse.com. That's all my links. All right. Usually just Mark de Grasse because it's unique names.
It is.
It's easy.
All right. Any last words of advice you have for somebody, especially, I mainly help people in the coaching space.
Oh, cool.
And coaching, consulting, and course creation, right? So, and I've got I don't have a huge following. I've got like 7,500 monthly downloads. Weekly downloads on the podcast. That's awesome. But if there's one piece of advice you give someone, what not to do or what to do for that audience, what would you say?
I would say don't hoard the good stuff because I think a lot of coaches, they think like, oh no, that's my secret formula. And that's really, I don't want my competitors to copy it and stuff like that. It's like, no, whatever. If your competitors want to copy it, they'll buy your product and copy it. That is not going to stop them. And also, what kind of jerk would do that? And they're never going to succeed if they're stealing your concept. So screw it all. Like, just put out the best stuff. Like your stuff where you're just like, oh, everybody's just nodding during the webinar. They just love what I just said. It's like, that's your next piece of content. So, and then put it out there and be real about just the best stuff you have. Just put all of that out there. And people will not be like, well, I'd sell this for this amount of money. It's like, nobody's going to look at these 50 videos that you made. They're all partitioned of the course that you created and be like, oh, I don't have to pay for it because they just look through everything. You're like, no, that somebody who's going to do that will never buy your product anyway. So don't worry about it. Just put it out there. And just because actually for our certifications, sometimes we'll just take an entire lesson from the cert and just post it for free online and just be like, hey, this is just one video and 50 videos part of this course. Easy. That's fine. Just do that. But yeah, don't hoard the good stuff. And just get it all out there. Just tell everybody everything. And then, the market will judge whether it's good or not. So you don't have to be like, oh, I hate this concept. It's like, it doesn't matter. Like, this is not for you. It's for the audience. Just do it anyway.
Makes sense. A good friend of mine, his name is Todd Keymour. He says it really well. He says, if you don't want to give your best stuff away for free, instead you give away your crappy stuff, what are people going to expect is going to be behind the pay gate when they pay you?
Why would they sign up? They're going to be like, oh, well, all my good stuff's in the back. Like, shut up. Like, you put it out in the front. You do it.
That might have worked like 30, 40 years ago.
I know. Well, yeah, I think it is. It's very old school. But if you think, I hate greedy people. So I'm like, that feels greedy to me. Like, you could be sharing and helping people and you're not because they got to pay. It's like, no. Like, convince them now. And then we'll give you money if your stuff is good. If you're tricking them into buying, then your stuff sucks anyways, and you shouldn't be doing it, and I'm glad you're failing.
A good one. I'm gonna make that the short form. I'm glad you're.
I'm glad you're bailing. You suck. Yeah, this is hard.
All right, thank you so much. This was super informative. Also, I appreciate giving a bit of background on what got you to where you're doing right now.
But yeah, well, it's just work. Nobody wants to hear. They want to hear the magic something. It's like, no,
It's just work.
sorry, it just sucks, and it takes.
There's no white file cheat sheet or
You can do it, but it doesn't matter because over the long term, nothing that you do one day is going to make a difference for a zillion days in the future. Like, no,
How do you then? What if we flip this on its head and AI gets to the point, which it will at some point, where you performing in front of the camera and talking is indistinguishable from AI's deepfake version?
yeah.
So
That's
what if GPT just goes and makes a whole curriculum and records video of you doing everything? Like, instead of, would you feel like all that wasted time doing it manually when AI could
No.
generate the whole database overnight?
No, not at all.
Okay,
Because
so I felt
that the only value that could possibly have, that database could possibly have, if it's unique to your brand. And so what you have to do, I call it strategic brand styling, which is you have to make a formula for the type of content you create and the voice that it creates and the principles that drive it. And it's much more complicated than just an article because you're doing generative content now. So people have to know that your content's unique to you.
Yeah.
And so it still has to reflect all of those things. And whether it's generated by, AI or a VA or somebody you just found, out of the world and just have them make something, it doesn't make a difference because it still has to sound like you and be your brand voice and be, content that your audience would expect from you specifically. Because if it's not specific to you, now we could just go to ChatGPT, like basic content, basic answers. I could get all day long for free. If I want to go somewhere specific, I want style. I want to know, like, man, Joe tells it like it is. He just says, meh, meh, meh. And I'm like, I like that. And so all his content is like that. He just goes straight to the point and hits it in the face. And you're like, that's the style I like. And so even though I could go to YouTube or I could go to Google and find a zillion pieces of the same content, I don't want that because Joe does it. And so I'm going to go to him. So yeah, you got style. If you don't have that style, no matter where it's created, your content's probably going to suck and do nothing. So get some style and then do it consistently.
Makes sense. All right. Thank you so much. I appreciate everything that you shared here.
No problem.
And guys, if you enjoyed listening to this, if you're watching this still at this point or listening to it, then I'm going to bet there was something that Mark said that either educated you, entertained you, or got you really curious about what else he's doing. So make sure you check out the links down below. And also, if you enjoyed this, make sure to give it the star rating that you think it deserves. I'll see you in the next episode.